James Harden, media day starts on Monday. Will James show up? And if so, will he be a distraction? We'll talk about that more and next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, right? I love FanDuel. Why? Because it's the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. What's going on, Mitch? How you been, bruh?
I'm doing well, Keith, man. How you doing on this beautiful day, right before the start of the marathon?
Hey, man, it's the calm before the storm, right? That's what they say. I'm all right, man. It's crazy, though. For y'all don't know, John Mitchell been on the show quite a bit, especially lately. Brings a lot of insight, longtime NBA reporter. Actually was kind of like my mentor here at the paper with the Sixers. He kind of handed the baton off to me. Not kind of.
You ran with it, Keith.
He definitely did. But I appreciate it. Of course, I'm Keith Pompey, covering the Sixers going into my 11th season for Philly. But Mitch, you know how it goes, man. This is like the time where everything's about to get started, but it's also the time where before you've been sitting on your tail for most of the summer, and you say to yourself, "Oh man, I got to do this around the house. I got to get this done."
Yeah.
It's like one of those But nah, I'm excited. But the one thing I'm really want to know is Mitch, I'm telling you, Monday's going to come. I don't think he's going to show up. Just me personally. I don't think he'll be there. That's me. Mm-hmm. And if he does, more power to him, right? I expect that. And if he does, I think he's going to make a statement. But the thing is, Mitch, it's going to be a huge distraction. I feel like right now, for what they're trying to get done and what they're trying to see now, granted, it will be great for him to come. And if he's quiet and he goes through everything, great. But I feel like if he comes, is a great possibility that it's going to become a distraction. We're talking about James Harden. If James Harden shows up, Monday media day, it's going to be a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And then Tuesday's practice in Colorado, Fort Collins, is going to be a lot of questions, and everyone's going to pay attention to what he's doing. And if he's out of shape, if he's lazy, if he does this, I think it could turn into a circus.
If he has a phone in his sweatpants when he's on the floor, like our friend Ben Simmons did, it's like, again, it's as the 76ers turn. And I almost think that he would be doing them a favor by not showing up, but he sends a message. I mean, no matter what he does, he sends a message. If he doesn't show up, it says, okay, the turmoil is not here today, but down the road, we're going to have the turmoil of a disgruntled player who made it known he was disgruntled during the summertime. And if he does show up, you'll be there. There'll be some national media there. And so many of the questions are going to be about what he said in China about, are you still committed to never again playing, for a team associated with Daryl Morey? And last I checked, Daryl Morey's not going anywhere, so It's going to dominate, and it's going to dominate and be a distraction. It's going to be the stories. It's one of the top stories in the NBA. I mean, right behind the where's Dame going to wind up story. It's probably the next biggest story, and actually, it might even be bigger than that because he could. There's speculation he'll be tied to the Dame trade. His name will come up, and Dame has just requested a trade under good circumstances. Portland understands that it's not going to work out there. They're probably ready to move on and begin a real rebuild. But here you have a team is trying to contend for a championship. So yes, it's going to be a distraction whether he shows up or not.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Now the big thing is, this is how it goes if he doesn't show up. Now again, if he doesn't show up, then the countdown is going to be like, okay, what's going to happen if he misses at least 30 days? Comes to the 30-day deadline because if he's out for at least in 30 days, then there's going to be a problem in regards to, not really a problem, but it's one of those situations where the Sixers have the right to deny him free agency at the end of the season, so he can't go to another team. They have that right?
Right.
And then so when he comes back, he's going to be out of shape. He's going to do this. He's going to do the whole nine, right? Whatever. And then that's going to happen. But right now, the thing is, like me personally, the best thing that could happen to the Sixers for them is if he doesn't show up and then he gets traded before the 30 days comes, right? Because then you can move on. But if he doesn't show up, the biggest thing is going to come as every day people are asking, like, hey, have you spoken to James? Where's the status with that is at? And you know how that goes on the record a lot of times.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't spoken to James. We don't know. And even for the first couple of days, it's going to be when Joel and everybody's going to be asked about James, it's going to be like, even if they believe it or not, or they feel this way or not, like, hey, he's our teammate. We business. We respect him. Yada yada yada. But then the stories are going to go to like, okay, well, can Pat Bev step up and get some extended minutes? What about this? What about that? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I feel like
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. As corny as that sounds, I think those type of questions, believe it or not, based off of what they dealt with Ben Simmons, it might be easier for them to handle as opposed to, hey, how was James at practice today or something like, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, because I mean, you know how it is in training camp. The general manager is standing right there with his arms folded, and watching the situation as it unfolds. And I mean, what other story? The Kelly Oubre story will be early on. Are you glad to join his franchise? But that's still a secondary story to with this top 75 player is going to whether or not he'll be a distraction, and just the fact that you guys are going to have to ask that question makes it a distraction.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. But look, we'll talk more about the center position when we get back from this little break because, I mean, Mitch, let's be real. Like, the center position has always been a problem with this. Well, not really a problem. Recently, it's been a problem. The backup position has the center depth the last couple of years, last two seasons, has been a question mark after they traded Andre Drummond, right? So now it's kind of like, you got Paul Reed who stepped up, and then you have Mo Bamba who can be a little bit of a question mark. So, we'll dive into that, when we get right back. But right now I want to talk to y'all about FanDuel, right? Snap into this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So, Mitch, when you look at the center position, like I said, I'm not going to before it was like overcrowded. Like it's like, oh, it got. I'm talking about in the beginning of the process. You got Nerlens Noel, you got Joel. You have other players. It was just those. Then like last year was like after they got rid of Charles Bassey, and even though he was a guy who rarely played, you're saying, dang, they're small.
Yeah.
You don't have that length. And now you got a guy like Mo Bamba, another 7-footer, 6'11", 7-footer, who can shoot the three. The thing is, he's versatile. The thing is, the one question was always his love of basketball. People wanted that, right? So now you have him. Now you have Paul Reed, 6'9", a small ball type of guy, but he's a good rim protector. So Nick Nurse is saying, like, you know what we want to do is we want to utilize these guys where we can have them play together. Not all three of them on the floor together, but there's going to be some lineups where you'll have Joel at the 5, you'll have Mo Bamba at the 4, then there'll be other ones, Joel at the 5, Paul Reed at the 4, or Mo Bamba at the 5, Reed at the 4, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like interchangeable, all three of them. What's your impressions of this, and who do you think, although coach is saying that, in your mind, who do you think is number 2 on the depth chart?
I think if you go off of the late season, you still have to put Paul Reed as a backup, even though, the NBA plays so much small ball. And the Sixers are one of those teams that small ball, just because their very, very best player is, one of the 3 or 4 biggest players in the league. So they're more so, even more so than Denver. They're wedded to playing that larger lineup. So but having said that, I do think that excuse me, having somebody like Paul Reed. In most of those lines, we're going to see Paul Reed at the 4. They're going to. I think they're always going to keep as much rim protection on the floor as possible, and and Paul Reed is a good defender. But I think they're going to want him more so out on those wings, as opposed to at the rim. Mo Bamba. You bring up a big point, a very important point, Keith. If he's not committed at this stage in his career, that can be problematic for the 76ers, because, like you said, they have been looking for center depth for quite some time. And Mo Bamba he was a lottery pick, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was. He
was a lot. So there'll be expectations placed on him. What I do like about him is that he can, excuse me, he can run. He's athletic, and has, he can pop the 3. Although I'm not the biggest fan of my big men just stepping out and taking.
Times has changed, bro.
I know they have. But if you can get something close to the rim, where, that's a topic for a whole other day. But it gives him some. It gives him some things. It gives the coach some things he can tinker with. I will say that. And the 76ers got the coach they wanted. They targeted Nick Nurse. And he's got some championship pedigree, and that's going to be required that he be able to figure this out. That's what he's getting paid. That's what he's getting paid the big bucks for. But I think he prefers having those options, the ability to mix and match players, as opposed to just saying we've just got nothing at the backup 2, at the backup 5.
Yeah, and I'm with you. the thing is, I think that Paul Reed, as a positionless player, so to
Mhm,
speak, I
mhm.
think he could be one of their most valuable not assets. I don't want to say asset, but he could be one of their most valuable players this season.
Right.
I do. I think that he's in store for a breakout season. Now, the one thing is, if he can knock down the outside shot but while continue to play with that grit and that he played with late in the season, I honestly think that he's going to be one of their best players, right? I do like
Yeah.
if for what he does. You know
He'll
what I
get
mean?
he'll get a
Valuable
big
player.
he'll get a
Huh?
big minute. He'll get a big jump in his minutes for sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I think
confident.
yeah. Now Mo Bamba. The thing about him is you have to figure something now. The Lakers waived him because they didn't want to pay him that money, right? Like
Mhm.
they traded him, but they didn't want to pay him that money. And it was one of those things where you know it was like that has to be a wake up call. Now, they had a team option where when they traded for him, you can evaluate it to see if this is somebody that you can move forward with. If not, you let them go. So when you lose $11 million and you sign for the veteran minimum,
Yeah.
that should be rock bottom for you to say, look, what do I need to do to not only stay in this league, but to be able to get back to that level of a contract that I was at that I was in line to make.
Right.
So
Right.
I feel like that this is a make or break year for him.
Mhm.
And then not only that, the good part for him is, and could be a bad part, is he's back home. Like he's back in
Yeah.
the Philadelphia area. He went to high
Mhm.
school at Westtown, and so it's comfort. But also he also knows like you got to bring it because some
Right.
people won't call you out, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to work out for him. But yeah, I like it. I think that of the positions that they have, that this could go down to be their deepest position. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
do. I do. I think it could. I really do. Because when you look at the point guard position, we don't know about James. And
Right.
James, even if it's a year, he's not a traditional point guard.
Right.
You look at, Tobias and is he going to be a three? Is he going to be a four? And then if he's a three, you got Kelly Oubre and this and
Mhm.
that. That sounds good on paper, but then you got Daniel House. It's just a lot of different. They're good players, but you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying. Like it's some question marks on how they're going to coexist, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think the center position could be their best one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Or the position where you have the least amount of questions. You
I
know.
think that's a good way to
Yeah.
describe it.
In Joel, you got a guy who's getting 30 plus minutes. At the gate. And you know that again, so many teams have gone to the small ball. You can when Joel's not the appropriate player to have on the floor, you can get guys. You can play Mo Bamba at the 5 and Paul Reed at the 4, and I think you can get a lot of energy from those guys. I think together they can combine for some, to give you energy. But again, Bamba is at that point where we all know we like to write those stories about the guy who came back who was once making such and such amount of money. Fortunes change, and now he is making the veteran minimum. And all of a sudden, the guy who was a lottery pick is wondering, "What's my future?" So the question becomes, what did he do during the off season to enhance his future and to secure and make himself valuable? So when they do toss the ball up, he's making the contribution. Because let's be honest, man, he's playing for his future. You
Yeah,
know,
no doubt. He's playing exactly. He's playing for his future. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But look, man, we want to talk about the Sixers' future when we get back. And what I mean by future, I shouldn't say the future. We want to talk about their immediate future.
hmm
Like basically, um, they're like, how do we project them to be? Now, again, I know this is tough just because we don't know the situation with James, right? But at the same time, we're talking about a team that, that was successful last year.
Right.
We just want to take a little stab at what we feel like they'll do this upcoming season when we get right back from this quick break. All right, Mitch, I told you it was going to be a quick break.
And it
Um,
was.
so, so here's the deal, bro. Like, when you look at the Sixers last year, uh, they were 54 and 20, 54 and 38 last year. Um, it was a team that couldn't get out of the second round, but we're not even going to, like talk about the playoffs, I guess, right now. But 54 and 38, they've been, that was one of their highest win totals in a while, right? In seasons. How do you project? I mean, how do you project them to do? Do you expect them to get 50 wins again this upcoming season?
I would be surprised. I expect another MVP or MVP like performance from Embiid. But as much as we're critical of James Harden is one of those players who has the talent, even as he ages, to show up almost in slippers and give you 10 assists now. He's changed his game around. But I think they're etched in as the number 3 team in the division. I think they're behind. I think they're behind Boston. I think they are behind Miami, and they've got a lot of question marks. And they come into the season. I mean, we're constantly. If Dame does come to Miami, they become exponentially better. So I think 50 wins. I like to be pleasantly surprised by the 76ers, but you can put me in the column of doubters with them right now. Yeah, I don't think that unless Kelly Oubre comes in here. I mean, I think two things really have to happen. Kelly Oubre has to hit the ground running. Kelly Oubre Jr. and Maxey has to take another significant step. And I don't mean just in ability. I just mean in his understanding of the game, the way he plays the game with his head, knowing when to take over. I think he was kind of hesitant about those things last year.
He was.
Yeah, I think he's going to have more of a green light. I think he's going to have to realize that James Harden's tenure in Philadelphia is just about up. Like it or not, for better or for worse, his tenure in Philadelphia is just about up. So, yeah, having said that, I see them as the number 3 team in the division unless things break incredibly well for them. And I don't think they're a 50-win team this year.
And it's crazy too. And correction, I said 54 and 38. I guess I had them playing the 92 game season, so it was actually 54 and 28.
Okay.
So the thing is this is crazy because that was their best regular season record since going 56 and 26 in 2000 season 2001, right?
You're going to say that.
Right. And then that was their third best season. Like when you equate it going all the way back to 1985, right? Most wins, right? So when you hear stuff like that, you're saying to yourself, like, wow. And it's crazy because they did that. They were the third best team in the East, but it was their best record in 22 years.
Yeah.
And the coach gets fired because of the expectation of getting out of the second round, right? It's crazy, right? First MVP since that season too.
Yeah.
All that, scoring champion, all this, and the coach gets fired because of that. But so that just tells you the expectation. So I'm with you. I don't think they win 54 games. I don't. I just don't see it. And just because there's a lot of uncertainty. You are right, Maxey. If James Harden doesn't come back, Maxi's going to be the point guard, right? He's going to be the point guard. He has to, he is going to be a work in progress, right?
I don't like him there, Keith. Not to cut you.
I don't either. I don't either. I don't either. I don't either. But I feel like it could be one of those things where he does what he did a couple of years ago, bring the ball up and they run it through Tobias with have Tobias more involved in it, But I don't like it at all either. But then you got to ask yourself, who else do they have? That's the question.
Yeah.
That's
Pat
the question.
Bev.
Yeah. That's the question. So they have a lot. They have a lot to think about. But now I don't see it. I feel like they're going to take a step back. Even if they traded James Harden, I felt like they would take a step back just because I don't think that you can get a lot for James that will catapult you to be, to surpass what you did. And I don't even think they're going to get out of the second round this year. I mean,
well, that wouldn't be new. That wouldn't be anything new for them. But I don't see them being eliminated in the first round. And I'm saying that in September. But I don't see them. The second round Sixers all over again at best. Well, I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, same here, bro. Same here. But look, Mitch, I want to thank you for being on this podcast. I want to thank y'all for listening. This podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts at. You can get it anywhere. Also, you make sure that you be subscribed and like the YouTube channel. And what you do is when you go there, to subscribe on it, you just click on that Liberty Bell. And when you do that, you also, in addition to becoming a new subscriber, you get notifications when the new podcast comes out. So do that.
Keith, I like the shirt, man. I just wanted
to. Yeah, we're representing Locked On. Locked On. Yeah, Locked On. I keep moving away from the camera. But yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, thank y'all for listening and have a blessed day. Peace. Peace.